Philippine Electrical Code. Question number 1. These type of insulated conductors that are not approved for use in a wet location. A. THW. B. THHW. C. THHN. D. THWN. Question number 2. A switch intended for use in general distribution and branch circuits. It is rated in amperes, and it is capable of interrupting its rated current at its rated voltage, is a blank switch. A. Bypass isolation. B. General use. C. Isolating. D. Transfer. Question number 3. The following list of circuit breakers is a standard ampere rating except for blank. A. 75 amperes. B. 90 amperes. C. 110 amperes. D. 225 amperes. Question number 4. The minimum length of free conductor to be left at each junction box for the purpose of splicing conductors or making connections to luminaires or devices shall be blank. A. 90 mm. B. 100 mm. C. 120 mm. D. 150 mm. Question number 5. In general, overhead service drop conductors shall not be smaller than blank. A. 8.0 mm square, copper. B. 12 mm square, copper. C. 10 mm square, copper. D. 14 mm square, copper. Question number 6. When a galvanized eye bolt is to be used as the point of attachment for an electrical service, the PEC requires the eye bolt to be installed not less than blank above finished grade. A. 2000 mm. B. 2500 mm. C. 2900 mm. D. 3000 mm. Question number 7. Why is electrical continuity required for metallic conduit? A. To reduce voltage drop. B. To limit galvanic corrosion. C. To establish an effective ground fault path and facilitate the operation of the overcurrent protective device. D. To reduce electrolysis. Question number 8. In dwelling units, receptacle outlets installed for countertop services must be located above, but not more than, blank above the countertop or work surface. A. 300 mm. B. 450 mm. C. 500 mm. D. 550 mm. Question number 9. When conductors are installed in a conduit or tubing nipple of blank or less in length, The ampacity adjustment factors, for more than 3 current-carrying conductors, in the raceway, are not required to be applied. A. 600 mm, B. 650 mm, C. 700 mm, D. 900 mm. Question number 10. Which of the following shall not be located over the steps of a stairway? A. General use receptacles, B. Overcurrent devices, C. Switches controlling luminaires, D. Junction boxes. Question number 11. Where a permanently installed outdoor swimming pool is located on residential or commercial properties, at least one single-phase, 125-volt or 250-volt, 15 or 20 ampere receptacle shall be located not less than blank from, and not more than blank from, the inside wall of the swimming pool. A. 1,800 mm and 6,000 mm, B. 2,000 mm and 6,000 mm, C. 1,800 mm and 3,000 mm, D. 1,500 mm and 3,000 mm. Question number 12. When armored cable, type AC, is installed in an accessible attic, and is run parallel to the sides of rafters, studs, or ceiling, or floor joists, blank. A. The cable shall be protected with running boards. B. The cable shall be protected by guard strips at least as high as the cable. C. Either A or B. D. Neither guard strips nor running boards shall be required. Question number 13. Generally, in a movie theater, the manual switch for controlling the emergency lighting systems is permitted to be located blank. A. In the motion picture projection booth. B. In an accessible location in the lobby. C. On the stage or platform. D. At any of these locations. Question number 14. Single conductor cable, such as blank and single conductor cable, listed and identified as solar photovoltaic wire, are permitted for use in PV source circuits within the PV array. A. UF, B. THHN, C. Type U, S, E2, D. PVC2. Question number 15. For dwelling units, GFCI protection is required for all single-phase, 250-volt and 125-volt, 15 and 20 ampere receptacles, installed within 1,800 mm of the top inside edge of the bowl of sinks located in blank. A. Laundry rooms, B. Bathrooms, C. Garages, D. All of these areas. Question number 16. The optional feeder and service load calculation method for dwelling units is reserved for blank. A. Multifamily dwelling units only. B. Dwelling units with over 280 square meters of usable space. C. Dwelling units supplied by service conductors with an ampacity of 100 amperes or greater. D. Dwelling units with a 208Y, 120 volt, 3-phase, electrical system only. Question number 17. When calculating the service entrance conductors of a farm, where all the buildings, including the dwelling, are supplied from a common service, the third, largest individual load in the group shall be calculated at blank. A. 65%, B. 75%, C. 80%, D. 90%. Question number 18. The entire area of a service pit, located in a commercial major repair garage, that is not provided with ventilation is classified as a blank location. A. Class 1, Division 1, B. Class 1, Division 2, C. Class 2, Division 1, D. Class 2, Division 2. Question number 19. The maximum distance conduit seals are permitted to be installed from an enclosure that houses devices that produces arcs or high temperatures in a Class 1, Division 1, location is blank. A. 300 mm, B. 350 mm, C. 400 mm, D. 450 mm. Question number 20. Where 3 switches are grouped or ganged in an outlet box, without permanent barriers, the voltage between the adjacent switches shall not exceed blank. A. 125 volts, B. 250 volts, C. 600 volts, D. 300 volts. Question number 21. In order to determine the adequate size of a junction box containing size 14 mm square, THWN copper conductors, the volume allowance, in cubic centimeters, required per conductor is blank. A. 36 cubic centimeters, B. 40 cubic centimeters, C. 50 cubic centimeters, D. 82 cubic centimeters. Question number 22. Type NM, NMC, and NMS cables shall be permitted to be used in the following, except as prohibited in 3.34.2.3a of the Philippine Electrical Code. A1 and 2 family dwellings and their attached or detached garages, and their storage buildings. B as service entrance cable. C in storage battery rooms. D in hoistways or on elevators or escalators. Question number 23. On a 4-wire, delta-connected system, where the midpoint of one phase winding is grounded, only the conductor or busbar, having the higher phase voltage to ground, shall be durably and permanently marked by an outer finish that is blank in color, or by other effective means. A. Yellow, B. Green, C. Purple, D. Orange. Question number 24. Fixed electric space heating equipment and motors shall be considered what type of load? A. Resistive load, B. Intermittent load, C. Non-continuous load, D. Continuous load. Question number 25. Exposed structural metal, that is interconnected, to form a metal building frame, and is not intentionally grounded or bonded, and is likely to become energized, shall be bonded to which of the following? A. Service equipment enclosure. B. Grounded conductor at the service. C. Disconnecting means for buildings or structures supplied by a feeder or branch circuit. D. All of these. Technical subjects. Question number 1. The purpose of Fleming's right-hand rule is for finding the direction of the induced current in blank. A. An electric motor. B. An electric generator. C. A transformer. D. A compressor. Question number 2. A 150 kVA single-phase transformer having a secondary voltage of 240 is installed at a multifamily dwelling. The full load current rating, in amperes, of the secondary is blank. A. 625 amperes. B. 265 amperes. C. 526 amperes. D. 1250 amperes. Question number 3. The resistance of copper wire 25 meter long is found to be 50 ohm. If its diameter is 1 millimeter, calculate the resistivity of copper. A. 7.853 times 10 to the negative 6 ohm meter. B. 1.57 times 10 to the negative 6 ohm meter. C. 1.25 times 10 to the negative 6 ohm meter. D. 7.853 times 10 to the negative 3 ohm meter. Question number 4. If 20 resistances, each of a value of 20 ohms, are connected in parallel, then the total resistance is A. 400 ohms. B. 0.25 ohm. C. 1 ohm. D. 40 ohms. Question number 5. The armature of a generator has a resistance of 0.20 ohm. When the current through the armature is 5 amperes, the terminal voltage is 225 volts. What is its EMF? A. 230 volts. B. 225 volts. C. 226 volts. D. 224 volts. Question number 6. Electron flow, produced by means of applying a pressure to a material is called A. Electrochemistry. B. Thermoelectricity. C. Piezoelectricity. D. Photosynthesis. Question number 7. A certain motor takes 400 amperes at 110 volts, and the horsepower output is 55. What is its efficiency? A. 94.56%. B. 95.92%. C. 98.23%. D. 93.25%. Question number 8. A blank is an electrical device, primarily used for testing a motor, for shorted coils. A. Hickey, B. Manometer, C. Growler, D. Mandrel. Question number 9. The RMS value of a sinusoidal wave is equivalent to blank times the peak value. A. 0.577, B. 0.707, C. 1.414, D. 1.732. Question number 10. Find the cost of running a 100-watt, 230-volt lamp for 18 hours at 11 pesos per kilowatt-hour. A. 45.54 pesos, B. 19.80 pesos, C. 41.40 pesos, D. 25.30 pesos. Question number 11. A starter resistor is used to start the squirrel cage motor because A. It limits the speed, B. It limits the back EMF, C. It limits the torque of the motor, D. It limits the starting current to a safe value. Question number 12. An electric motor drives a mechanical load taking 22.4 amperes from a 230-volt source. Calculate the power input of the motor. A. 4,928 watts, B. 5,150 watts, C. 5,152 watts, D. 4,152 watts. Question number 13. The frequency of an AC generator, running at 600 RPM to 60 Hz, determine the number of poles. A. 8 poles, B. 10 poles, C. 12 poles, D. 6 poles. Question number 14. The resistance of an electrical conductor is inversely proportional to its A. Length, B. Cross-sectional area, C. Diameter, D. All of these. Question number 15. An electric iron draws 12 amperes at 220 volts. It is desired to reduce the current to 15 amperes by connecting a series rheostat. What is the resistance of the rheostat? A. 3 ohms, B. 3.67 ohms, C. 18.33 ohms, D. 14.67 ohms. Question number 16. How many coils are there in a megger? A. 1, B. 2, C. 3, D. 4. Question number 17. A 15 horsepower, 220-volt shunt motor has an efficiency of 85% at full load. The resistance of the field is 440 ohms. What is the full load armature current? A. 67.59 amperes, B. 57.96 amperes. C. 75.69 amperes. D. 59.34 amperes. Question number 18. What is the resistance of 180 meters of silver wire having a resistivity of 1.6 times 10 to the negative 8 ohm meter and having a cross-sectional area of 0.3 millimeter square? A. 4.7 ohms. B. 10.6 ohms. C. 9.6 ohms. D. 6.9 ohms. Question number 19. For efficient operation, induction motors are always designed with a small blank. A. Resistance. B. Voltage drop. C. Inductive reactance. D. Air gap. Question number 20. What is the actual load in watts if the current drawn is 50 amperes with a voltage and power factor of 110 volts and 95% respectively? A. 5,500 watts. B. 275 watts. C. 5,780 watts. D. 5,225 watts. Question number 21. The field winding of a shunt motor has a resistance of 110 ohms, and the voltage applied is 230 volts. What is the amount of power expended in the field excitation? A. 386 watts. B. 440 watts. C. 481 watts. D. 500 watts. Question number 22. A battery, whose internal resistance is 4 ohms, is connected to an external resistor of 15 ohms. The battery's terminal voltage is 15 volts. What is the EMF of the battery? A. 18 volts. B. 19 volts. C. 22.5 volts. D. 14 volts. Question number 23. A 30 horsepower engine drives a DC generator. If the generator has an efficiency of 85%, how much does it deliver? A. 25.5 horsepower. B. 35.29 horsepower. C. 21 horsepower. D. 25 horsepower. Question number 24. A good electric conductor is one that blank. A. Has few electrons. B. Has low conductance. C. Has high resistance. D. Produces minimum voltage drop. Question number 25. The output of a shunt generator is 400 amperes at a terminal voltage of 240 volts. If the shunt resistance is 40 ohms, what is the armature current? A. 506 amperes. B. 406 amperes. C. 410 amperes. D. 510 amperes.